All right, everybody. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day so far. What we're going to be doing today is I'm finally going to lock in and I'm picking a project that I'm trying to see through to the end. So what we're going to be doing is working on the Otome slash visual novel today. So that's exciting stuff. What I'm doing now is I am just bringing up some references. What we're going to be doing is trying to lock down uh, the design of the MC Lumen. So I'm just getting my references real fast. So bear with me for just a sec here. Get that up. All right, let's go ahead and let's hop on over here so you can see. So what I got right here also is I was just kind of playing around with, a UI. This is definitely not going to be like what the final UI looks like. I just kind of wanted to see like possibilities for how much space, like maybe menus and maybe text and whatnot, would kind of take up and how much space I would have for the characters themselves. So, like I said, this is not like, definitely not definite or permanent here. So what I'm gonna do is I am gonna use this right now for a character turnaround, so a character reference sheet. But it's something that I should always be doing with all of the OCs, so let me go ahead and find a 3D model like body type that I like here that we're going to use for our Lumen. So let's do, I'm not quite sure how far it's supposed to be. We're going to assume that he's a little bit, he's not quite as tall as some of the other characters, because I know there's going to be a really, really tall character, male character at least. So we got our 3D model here. I'm going to go ahead and also adjust his proportions to kind of fit with my style as well. So make both of the hands nice and big. So let's make them bigger. Let's also make the feet bigger. Again, the lower part of the body is not going to matter quite as much because we're like barely ever going to see it. But you know what? Having that as part of the design is important. Let's make sure that he's got a nice and slow waist here. He's going to be kind of like bigger in comparison to characters I normally draw, so we're going to go ahead and make this just a little bit. So probably let's see. Eventually I do want to get away from using the 3D models, but for the sake of efficiency and I'm the only artist working on this project, I definitely need to do what I can to, have time to actually complete it, so. Alright, let's get ourselves under some of the pose here. Although I don't want like two posts because then it's a little difficult to create like the designs. Machine chasing after this is I will duplicate this layer and then I'll rasterize it. Otherwise, things become a pain in the ass. So, oops, I don't know what I meant to do. Let's go ahead and let's delete the rulers off of these because I don't really need them.決勝持って向こうに行こうって夢をぜにこだわってないわけでもない揺れる未来頂点距離が歪んでしまっただけで霞む感情をつない止める手段なんて過去に追いつきだそれでいいんだ Take away and do for me 答えのない世界でも
て自分を騙すことすら裏切りに変えてしまっていたから憎しみとか哀れみさえ自己犠牲で片付けたんだ Take away and do for me 答えのない世界でも Carry on every
like kind of like Loomis method on it. We can kind of just make sure that we're aligning things the way they need to be
The only ways controlling everything.
Is that like crazy muscle here?
Massive corruption, let it begin and count with this here time flying, and it's making me choke. Shut your mind down, what does it take? Confess your unconscious stress, this wanna be joke. 落とされた者たちの声が響く毒を制すには笑って毒を妄想を枯れてた必死に注ぐのさ See you go back and see them trouble bleeding all out and find my devil I will take you I will break you See the go back and stop them never bleeding all out just like the devil I will break you I will when the devil flies Transform, the double is on, can't wait to take place and you'll never know when it explodes Once more, the whole parade is missing the plane today The countdown's ready to go 紅の空、世界が眠る前僕らはどこに向かっているのだろう折れた羽引きずりながら See you go down and see them trouble bleeding all out to find my devil I will take you I will break you See you go down and stop them never bleeding all out just like the devil I will break you I will when the devil flies
We're gonna be using that word a lot here. We're gonna be using this.
Shut down the bar, shut down the bar, shut down the bar. Shut down your bar, shut down your bar, shut down your bar. What does it take to shut down the bar? Shut down the bar, shut down the bar. Bring it level down. Shut down the bar, shut down the bar, shut down the bar. Can't ready to go.
きっとまだ知らないでしょポッポッポ僕のとかわかるとか簡単に言わない君の絶望が中心なら貫いて壊せ
「
So let's work on some outfit design now. So let's flip and back over here. Hell yeah, sorry I was blasting you out there with the music, jeez. Alright, so we got some shirts and some this and some pants. So we're gonna go with that first here.
You're not alone. Daylight, shed a light, so you won't disappear. 'Cause I know where you belong. Save your Saturday with the flashbacks we make out. But still we're holding on, waiting for the break of dawn, for a new day to begin. Let's go to drive, slip through the haze. Is there a reason anymore to keep me hanging on? Memories of the past, running so fast, can't look back on yesterday. 'Cause I don't trust my power, it haunts my weary soul. I'm lonely, crawling in the dark, nowhere to go. You'll be by my side forevermore. Daylight, are you there? I knew you once before, but the devil in my head is taking over me. All I need is your warm embrace to melt my liberty, craving for tomorrow, for a peerless day to come. Maybe nothing matters. Still, I'm searching for the daylight. Tell me nothing matters. I'm waiting for salvation.
This shirt's a little bit big for one, but you know what, we can fix it. It's not a big deal.
Now I see it shine, darkness is gone, rising from the ground. I am alive. Daylight in my eyes, I knew it all along. Fire burning in my soul to make a better world. I got everything I need with you there by my side, waiting for the break of dawn, for a new day to begin. Fire burning in my soul. Daylight, daylight, stay a little while longer.
Just do this.
最果てのストーリー抱いてあてもなくさまよい続けた滲んだ New World It's only just begun 今始まりの
Oh, you like that hairstyle? Okay, cool. Yeah, I tried a couple different ones. This one seems to be the one I would vibe with this, so just shit.
過去の失望を塗りつぶすために整理してきた未来僕のライフが尽きるまでその定めぶち壊していくのさ Break out and start a revolution 一つの答えを探して限界のレースに挑んで一度きりのチャンスとして背負った分
Or would you rather break the fall and take defeat? Survive and find your evolution. 光の世界を映して永遠のチェイスに挑んで一度きりのスタート切って狂った天命越えてゆくんだよ。枯れ果てたイメージ抱いてわけもなく戦い続けて Cause the true world the game has only just begun 今始まりの days現実とフェイクの狭間で一度だけリセット許して救いはきっと心の中に最果てのストーリー抱いてあてもなくさまよい続けた滲んだ New World The game has only just begun 今始まりの Come now, child, don't give me that frown. It's no use, I won't be talked down. Your determination is strong. Now fight, stand your ground. My desire for mankind's demise filled them with the strength to survive. Hopes and dreams my kin would fulfill were inspired by love. I'm just a broken shell of what I was. A coward hiding from
they were talking about the spell,
the
right? Using the
truth.
spell for the sketch. That's all the bugs. Let's just start to see it. Well, then, we can finish like the whole single
They look you in the eyes, but you realize that this is fate. There's no turning back, and even still I dare to attack. The kingdoms pin their hopes and dreams on me. Am I a sage or a murderer? Tainted with the souls of your kind. Human, don't give up, the time is now. Your determination will set you free.
the game looks pretty neat.
This is the end. Will you fight or defend? Could I still make amends? Am I fit to be called the king of the mountain? The great spear of justice, the savior
Good enough for now. Yeah, this is a sketch. So that's fine. Also, let me go
Resist the forces that we carve our own path, create our own way. The easy way out. There are no shortcuts through this maze of on the path that we created. The choice changes everything. Come at yourself.
Of course, none of this is.
There is no turning back.
But also dramatic, because this is
And make this moment count. Make this moment what you preach, to become what you believe. Invisible on the surface. Now you can see perception as reality. It's all or nothing. You only have one life to live. Always remember to remain on your path and resist what holds you back. To remain on your path, move on and resist what holds you back.
I know, Pensie's poor toe. basic parts.
It's in the blood. It's in the
For like a VN character here, so let's give him like the.
さっきまでと言ってること違うじゃない。ちょっとだけ素顔見せたけれどずっとイライライ
Is that better? There we go. Sorry about that. So for some reason, when I am playing Control, uh, which I'm playing on stream right now, like it makes me have like a second audio source for some reason, and it's like weird. Yeah, we're just working on designs for the visual novel slash Otome game that Havoc and I are working on. Yeah, we've actually this has been one of the projects that we've had like on hold for a while. And we just had to I had to make a decision as to what I was gonna um, like dedicate like my time to. So we decided that the visual novel was probably the best route to go. So I'm trying to design the MC right now, Mr. Lumen here. Hey, I mean, artist block is real, so for me, I found that a lot of like my artist block had to do with my anxiety. So once I got that like taken care of, I don't really like I'm not like as stressed about like the designs or whatever. I mean, like so anxiety's tricky. Like I personally the only things that I can tell you are to get with your medical professional and see if there's anything that they can do for you as far as that goes. Like what I'm taking might not work for you. You also might, not want to go the route where medication isn't always the answer to everything. I just know personally that's what helped me. But like I said, everybody's different. So, and I am not a medical professional, so I can't give you any legit medical advice. So, don't take like anything I say as like, yeah, ashwagandha is something you can get over the counter. I could vouch for that. Ashwagandha does work pretty well. And you can just find that in like your like the vitamins section of whatever store you go to. Yes, working out does help a lot. Having confidence in how you look, how you feel about yourself. Actually, I should say how you feel about yourself more than how you look. Definitely 100%. Like, I started working out again too, and my confidence has gone like way up. Yeah, also your work is awesome, so don't let anybody think that it's not. I think you're a fantastic animator. I love seeing your animations. They're so cool. Oh yeah. It's yeah, I feel you on that one too. That's hard to get out of as well. Like I just want to get along with like everybody, but there's always going to be people that are just going to be like malicious for like no particular reason whatsoever. Like they just have nothing better to do with their lives, but try to bring others down. So you want to just pay no heed to those people, especially when it comes to your art, because 9 times out of 10, someone that's like giving you shit about like who you are or your art has like no clue anything about art or the production of it or any of that good stuff. So absolutely fuck them. Hell yeah. Yeah. Metal here is always here to remind you to not let others bother you. I am I'm gonna reduce the opacity on these glows so I can see the hand here. Oh my god, brush was getting crazy there. Hell yeah. I mean, I personally still haven't yet had the opportunity to actually play a match of D&D, but I've always wanted to, so or not a match, I should say, a D&D campaign. Who's winning the match? Just straight Zoolander here. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, Nefa's back. Hell yeah. Let's put his 7 rounds and my team goes down and I'm on 2 HP. On my last turn, I grappled the captain, made his bolt drink the love potion. GM made me roll. I got a 6, so it was an action for 6 days. If I were to roll a 20, it would have been permanent. Thank God it was a low roll. Hell yeah. Escape by the power of man love. I like it. That's awesome. Poor Pensy. I'm so sorry about your toe. That sucks. And I never know how to do. Not really that great here with pants. Maybe I'll just kind of leave this mostly as a silhouette for now until I figure out the. It's funnier, the IRL table was shocked and stun locked, and the dude who bought me the love potion was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm gonna buy 10 more for you, Cheetah. I sacrificed myself for the wit. Awesome. Yeah, poor Pensy. We're gonna roll with that. Like I said, pants are not really my forte. Man, maybe these don't need to be so angular here. Maybe more like that. Oops. Looks a little bit better. Put a seam. All right, let me also bring down the opacity here on the shoes. And kind of get something better here. Shoes or something I need to get practice on. So let's kind of do like this is kind of like the base. Let's kind of do a little bit of a applied design here on these. And we need to have a spot for the shoe tongue. And kind of have like a little bit of a lip there too. I mean, this isn't like the details I super need to worry about, so. But, you know, we gotta make sure our character design is complete here. So we kind of like that, and I go down like that. Yeah, that's good enough. And we'll give him some socks with like the coloring, so he's not just wearing like dress shoes with no socks, because that's weird. All right, I'm gonna do the glasses on a separate layer here. Hey, that was actually not that bad. And we just gotta connect it through here. And then what I can do is duplicate, scale. Bring it in a little bit here. Okay, and then let's turn off the ruler here for a sec. Actually, bring that in a little bit more. Since the line works kind of thick. And I can actually delete this side. And let's turn off the ruler on this. Delete. Deselect. Combine those together. Duplicate. Transform horizontal. Then I can just kind of line it up manually here. Like that. I can turn this back on. Oh yeah, let me save. Neva's like, please save. And then oh, we got his glasses. Requires a text prompt. I could change it. I just thought it would be funny if uh you or anybody wanted to like say something about like saving, so that's the reason why I did that. All right, and then that's the regular line work. So now that we got our that all set, now I can do pay up your taxes. Yeah, I'm so glad I didn't owe anything this year. I was gonna rage out if I owed again. It's like, come on, guys. I'm an artist. You ain't gotta hit me like that. save again. Oh yeah, I gotta change this arm. You know what? Do I really want the hand on the hip? I mean, I guess I can do that. It's fine. A game for $99. Yeah, fuck that. What in the holy hell? Like, seriously. It's like if I'm gonna pay for like pay almost like what like at least a large percentage of the system that I'm playing it on just for like a game, like that's ridiculous. I mean that game better like reverse aging or something. That's all I gotta say. It's gonna be that damn expensive. Dragon Ball Sparking. Okay, give me them the benefit of the doubt. It's actually 69.99, but the deluxe edition be 90.99, and then the so-called ultimate. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, fuck that. Yeah, they lost their minds. The worst thing about it is like I don't know. I know games are expensive to make. I know they take a really long time to make, but they've been like games lately have been like being released like incomplete and all sorts of shit. So it's like, you know, what is the extra costs we're like paying here? Like what is the why does is there an extra cost suddenly when there hasn't been one before like that? Like doesn't make any sense. Like what could we you have possibly done to make it like deserve such a like a higher price tag, you know? I feel that way about like apartment complexes too. Like when my rent goes up, I'm like, what the hell has improved about the apartment to the point where you feel like you can raise my rent by $100? Like, if you can prove to me that something improved that much, sure. But otherwise, you're just crazy. Yeah, the AI bullshit is crazy too. Like, fuck using AI as like finished products. That shit is so ass. It's like, just hire artists. Quit being a bitch. I don't know. I'm wondering if I should like maybe give him a watch or something on his other hand here. I'm also gonna do his hair here on a separate layer as well. Oh yeah, yep. It's gonna be a visual novel. This is gonna be the what we're working on here is the MC. His name is Lumen. It's gonna be like magic and like occultists and stuff. Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely gonna change the I'm gonna mess with the colors here once I get this sketch all set. That off for a sec here. Yeah, it's looking pretty good so far. Kind of want to give him like a little watch or something over here. Maybe it's like a fancy kind of watch that has like more than it's like a watch in a watch. You know, like animifying things here. I'll have to look up like watch designs at some point. I don't really know how to draw watches, but that's okay. We'll just kind of imply that he's got one here. Do you think I should put like a loose tie around his neck or anything? I don't know. I don't know about the loose tie. Let's work with this for now. So, let's see, that's that layer. Let's kind of erase that so this watch doesn't look as crazy. Just the watch layer, yeah. That's the hair. Oh yeah, I need to get rid of some of this. For the hair. And find the glasses. There's glasses. Oops. No, I got my thing on. Turn off the symmetry. That's all right. What's that? Oh, that's the other part of the glasses. All right, I should bring him down just a little bit. It's more on his nose. And then I'll have to bring these up on the sides. So yeah. Oh, that looks much better. What is this? Oh, that's the tie. All right, let's merge that together. Son of a bitch. Turn off that. Clean it up a little bit here and there. Get rid of some of the ear line here. Then we'll draw the glasses. Actually, you know what? Some of the glasses are going to be covered with his hair. There we go. Looks a little bit better. Let's kind of have the thing for his glasses here. I don't know. I think this looks way better than the original design I had for him. sold what did you sell? Let's give him a indication for the Adam's apple here. All right. I think that's looking pretty good. Save. And let's give it some colors here real quick. And then we will wrap up for today because Havoc is gonna stream some Palia and I don't want to take away the time from her. Actually, this design kind of makes him a little androgynous too. I don't know. We could also like play with like you know, girl versions of Lumen as well, just to see how that would look. Oh, haste. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Let's do reselect, invert. And we're gonna do fill that with white. And let's make some folders here. Let's call this refined sketch 1. And lines. That and make these green. Then this will be the base. Sure, that's in the same folder. All right, now I could do some of the things I normally do. Some Berlin noise. And then I like to also add a bit of a watercolor texture. I think that's been looking pretty nice on my art lately. Nice and big. Move it around so we get like some variety. That's probably good. Brightness 20%. And rasterize. This is red. Alright, now we can start doing some base colors here. Let's see if we can make him a little slightly more tan here. It's a little bit more tan. I'll label that as skin. Then these will be eye whites. So for the eye whites, we kind of want to go over here. They're not actually white. They're kind of a little bit of gray and a little bit of... Oh, thanks for the follow, Onyx Art, by the way. I'm so sorry. I wish I had seen that sooner. I was just locked in over here. The dishes upstairs, and I don't know, vibe on Instagram. Word. Yeah, we're kind of getting towards the... I'm going to be wrapping up the stream pretty soon, so don't feel too bad if you got stuff you need to do. Don't let me hold you back from chores and errands that you need to do. And we'll work on like his expressions and stuff later. This is just kind of like a neutral, like blank expression right now. We'll give him more personality as we develop him. Oops, I gotta fix right there too. Let's do iris. Kind of want him to have like at least a yellow base for his irises, and then we'll add some more like cool colors and stuff into it. Oh, son of a bitch. Or I could give him hediochroma too. That might be kind of cool. Have two different eye colors. We can play with that at some point. Alright, so we'll mess with the rest of the colors later. On that one, let me fix some of this stuff on the base here real quick. These should be like that. And turn off the ruler so I can fix over here. Oh my god, lost where I was. Fill that back in. Anywhere else that's missing being filled in? Alright, the rest of the base looks fine. Okay, cool. Oh, here we go. I see. I was wondering why the silhouette was looking kind of chunky. Gotta carve out some of these spots. The hair is like overlapping here. Like that. That's better. We'll have a little bit of it coming that way. else on this one? Kind of like it's looped over. Yeah, it looks better. All right, iris. Let's do hair. Yeah, let's grab kind of like a peachy pink here. Let's make it a little more orangish because Havoc gave me a guide over here. Actually, I could probably grab it from here. Yeah, I was pretty close already. Hell yeah. All right. What are you doing? Yeah, let's just go ahead and select the easiest way to do this. Oh my god, yeah. Fucking scam calls. Speaking of AI bullshit. Oh, your mother's been in a terrible accident and we need you to send $500 in Target gift cards so she can get better. I wonder if I should have the underside be like a different color or a darker color. Let's mess around with that. Undercut. Let's see. What kind of colors here? We have it kind of like a reddish brown, a little bit darker, maybe underneath. And you can't really see it on the other side, so maybe the eyebrows also have them be kind of like this. The eyebrows could even actually be darker, but let's just kind of play with things for now. And then we can always adjust them later. Take that away. Let's go ahead and also give them some blush while we're at it. So they don't look lifeless. Here's a bit, and we'll put a little bit around the lips too. There. Across here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have like a ton of like anime like openings and stuff on my art playlist. see, do I want to do glow dodge or do I want to do steep hard light? We'll make it a little lower too. Just want it subtle. Green. Alright, let's see. Kind of think the undercut should be a bit more contrasty. So maybe a little bit darker. Looks a little bit better. Maybe if I take it down more into like this red realm. Reddish. Maybe more desaturated. Maybe even more desaturated. Oh, it's a little bit better. Alright, let's see. So now we can... Let's get the glasses. They're going to be a little bit harder to color, so maybe I'll color over top of the lines with those. So let's do this as glasses base. Do this. We'll have them be maybe like a gold. It's gonna be the fun part, drawing a circle here. Going in, fix it up a little bit here and there. And we can always play with different colors and whatnot for the glasses. It's kind of like they've soldered together a little bit there. And kind of going over the ear, of course. And that. Uh, Then turn this off and erase away where the hair is covering. And something we also should do is let's do the lenses. And let's also get our symmetry tool here. I think the lenses should be like maybe tinted some sort of color to like kind of bring attention. So see how things look with the blue at first, and then we'll, oops, wrong layer. We might even probably end up doing like some sort of gradient in these. And of course they're going to be like transparent too, so. And let's do this. Oops. Select. Some of this isn't filled in all the way. Control to select it. And then maybe. Maybe some lighter blue from the top, just a bit. Select and let's combine those. Turn off the ruler. Label this, slides this. Lighten screen, soft light, hard light, pin light, exclusion, divide. Oh, that's kind of, it's kind of cool. Like super highlights the eyes, that's for damn sure. Color dodge, add. Let's kind of keep them, we'll keep them at normal for now, and then we'll put them at like 70, about like 50% opacity. And we can mess with them more later. I mean, this is definitely not the finalized design, so don't get too married to it. But yeah, I think it's going pretty well so far. All right, let's see. So let's do the undershirt color. I wonder if his undershirt should be black and his vest should be like a lighter color, or if I do the white, I don't know. He could even actually have like a dark shirt and a dark vest. So we can kind of mess with this. Let's kind of see what we can do here. Let's start. We'll start with them both being dark, and then we can mess with it from there. Turn off this symmetry. All right, we'll start with it being kind of a grayish for the undershirt for now. And of course, we're keeping these all in separate layers so we can play with the colors. All right, let's make the vest a bit darker here. Maybe less saturated. Oh, like that. That's. We could always put like, I mean, we're also gonna put like some sort of pattern on the larger parts of the design, because that's always like a good design aspect, is anywhere where there's like a large amount of space should always put some sort of like well, not always, but generally speaking, putting some sort of oh man, it's not giving me the right color. That sucks. To fill that in. That's all right. I'll figure it out later. Um yeah, it's just like something I learned from a really good character artist named Rhino Tuna. They are like super goated. And I kind of think that the pants should probably be a similar color too, if not the same color. So we're gonna put pants, and we'll also put that on there. Oops, gonna have to get his hand there in a sec. Show ruler, and then we'll, oops. What? Why is this? When did I put this song on my fucking playlist? Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll just get most of these like bases down, and then on Friday we will play with it more. That way we're not I'm not encroaching into Havoc's uh stream time, because I gotta make some lunch and stuff in between here. All right, let's see. Let's also make the socks dark. I think that's a good idea. And I don't really know what to do with the shoes. Make them a little bit darker, maybe. I don't know. We'll mess with like the. I'm gonna have to play with like the colors, and so he doesn't end up too plain. I mean, his name is Lumen, so he should be pretty like bright and warm. Oh, your toe. I'm so sorry. That makes me so sad. I don't want the Pensy to hurt. Probably make that even darker. There we go, that's a bit darker. Yeah, because we need some more zazz up here to bring the attention to the upper body area for sure. It lacks jazz. Let's see. Let's do vest handkerchief. That's what the hell those things are that are shoved into the pocket here. So I don't know. Let's give it kind of like a. Need to bring some warmer colors back into this. Maybe the buttons also being might kind of help. Help kind of lead it more up to the top there. Yeah, we'll figure things out. It definitely is a little like kind of feminine looking right now, so maybe I might make him a little bit more masculine looking. I don't know. We'll figure that out. But I think we're getting to a stopping point here. Let me get his watch here too. Well, I'm glad you like him there, Pensy. We'll continue to develop it, over time here. So yeah, this is a pretty good. I think this is a pretty good stopping point. Let's go ahead and let's zoom in a little bit again here just to see what we got so far. We got that. Got a little glove. We got some pants. We got some shoes. We'll put some sort of like pattern maybe on the vest or something like that. We'll figure out maybe like some trim that might bring more attention up to the face. Of course, play with some of these colors, that kind of thing. But I think it's looking pretty good so far. Let me say one more time for prosperity, and we'll then go ahead and we'll wrap this up for the day. All right, I want to thank you guys so much for hanging out with me while I begun the long journey on creating the Otome and the Otome characters. I think things are going a bit in a better direction this time around than I was before. I've learned a lot better like skills and whatnot since I first started from those first designs. So I think it's like a major improvement. But yeah, if you like the kind of content I do, please follow me to see when I go live. Consider subscribing, especially if you have Amazon Prime. There's a little button, makes it nice and easy. I do now have a Patreon and also a VGen under my name, so be sure to check them out if you want to support me in different ways. I will not be streaming tomorrow, but I'll definitely be back on Friday to do some more work on Lumen here. I hope you guys have a wonderful week until then. I'll catch you then.